Okay, we're here. So, fair warning, my Wi-Fi might go out again. My Wi-Fi went out when I was at New Louisville, and I didn't notice for like 5 minutes after until Ethan called me on my phone, and I even almost ignored that call. So you know. We're back though. Let him know. My Wi-Fi was flickered out for like a good few hours before I started streaming. I started streaming like pretty much right after it came back originally, so I'm not surprised that it's borked. Not surprised at all. So yeah, oopsie. But we're back. So what did you miss? Let's fucking talk about it. So after New Louisville, dude, I was in the fucking motions. I was going and I was not stopping, right? So that's what I did. I kept going and going and going. And I think the bigger key points that I should note is, obviously the therapist kept on letting it happen because she thought it was helping Lewis. I came to a choice where I had to pick a man or a woman for Lewis to be, enamored with. I picked a man because, your Wi-Fi is borking too. Yeah, that might be it. I'm sorry. Hopefully everything works out. But yeah, no, I obviously picked a man, cause, and then it came to this point where it mentioned that his mom, he didn't come home from work one day. He kept on doing his job, kept on doing his job, kept on doing his job. His mom came and tried to get him, but he just kept working. He didn't listen. And then and then it came to another choice between, serpents or rainbows. I went to the rainbows. Y'all are finding every way to call me gay right now while I explain how gay I've been with my decisions. But yeah, it came to a decision of serpents or rainbows. I picked the rainbows. I was fucking up a little. Then it came to a decision of the harp or the sitar. I picked the harp, so that's what we were doing when stream cut off. When I finally noticed that stream cut off. So I apologize.
His chase led him to a golden palace east of the sun and west of the moon. Even then, his logic remained sound. He knew the world was all in his imagination. But he was so proud of having created it. In his own eyes, he'd become something greater than a king.
Come over here, you bitches! There. Now I'm just getting aggravated by the fish. Hang on.
For someone who'd never known success in the real world, I think it was overwhelming. And then it struck him that the real Lewis was not the one chopping salmon, but the one climbing the steps of a golden palace. My imagination is as real as my body, he told me. It was hard to argue with him. He began to forget the world we know. I think it pained him to remember Lewis, the cannery worker. He began to despise the man with a royal contempt.
So yeah, Diedrich just mentioned, oh, I hate this part, and I'm gonna, give that quick warning. Look away, if you don't want to see this part, because this is about to get dark. Let's go.
I still thought I could save him. Even after he said he was being crowned king over all the lands of wonder. The palace would be packed with his companions. Including the wise Calico who'd insisted on advising him. His prince waited, holding his crown. There was only one thing left to do. Bend down his head. And the rest I think you know. Mrs. Finch, your son was a kind man who will be missed by all of us who knew him.
My brother was really cool. I wish you could have met him.
So this one is gonna be touchy, to talk about. A lot of people insist that it's a suicide, and I beg to differ. Because I don't remember where I read it, and I can't tell you the actual name because I've definitely forgot it, but I can go look for it if you want me to. See, what was going on with Lewis is he has an actual fucking mental disorder that basically makes you become detached with reality. And, it didn't help, that the therapist wasn't helping him properly, and honestly, I'm gonna be real here, it was 2010, the therapist probably didn't know how to help him. and she was just doing what she thought was right, which in the end was the downfall. And, yeah. And also being put into a job of, you know, like a monotonous movement job like that. Considering that I was doing that for like a good 5 minutes before I realized stream was over, yeah, no. That monotony is fucking dangerous. That, like, repeated movement of just over and over and over and over again, that is dangerous. Especially paired with the, double movement of the actual gameplay of, you know, the images in his head. Like, letting his imagination run while he's doing the equivalent of nothing for hours at a time is extremely dangerous, especially given that he has, you know, a mental disorder. Let me go see if I can find the description of that for you, so that way I can properly talk about it. It's here. Let me... where is it? Just a moment. I will find it for the sake of you guys, because I think you need to know this. Where is it? It was in here. I remember I read it in here. Because I do feel like I should talk about this. And I will say it is a comment that I read under the Gab Smolders video of this game that I'm going to read, if I can find it. Yeah, so I'm gonna read the, sorry, it's okay, Ethan. I'm gonna read word for word pretty much what this comment says from the point of where it's talking about Lewis onward. Purely because there's a lot here, but I'm gonna read specifically Lewis because I'm talking about Lewis. The comment is from a user named Arai I think I'm saying that right, and it says, Lewis might not have died because of suicide. Experimenting with weed and working in the factory can cause any incident whatsoever, but what's important is his psychiatrist assessment that says it was suicide. It was this assessment that caused Dawn to believe Edie, because Edie's story glorified deaths and paints over the fact of what she did. The story the story of something that's gonna happen later in the game, blah 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 blah. It's basically Edie was glorifying death, which caused some problems, and then there was a secondary comment about the mental disorder, if I can find that. I was trying to find that, but in the process I also found that, which I think was important. Where is it? Because it's really, 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 really important to talk about, and I want to make sure I get it right. So I will take, yeah. So this person, Mike Vander, said, what Lewis was likely experiencing is called maladaptive daydreaming disorder, MDD. It is a very extreme form of dissociation and is very real. So let me quickly look that up to read a little bit about it for you guys, just to make sure that you're all educated and that I'm educated. Because obviously I do want to make sure, I mean, like I've been trying to do, I want to root all of these deaths in some kind of reality to make sure that they aren't, you know, as whimsical and fantastical as they seem. Yeah, so let me read this. Sometimes known as daydreaming disorder, maladaptive daydreaming describes a condition where a person regularly experiences daydreams that are intense and highly distracting. So distracting, in fact, that the person may stop engaging with the task or people in front of them. Yeah, I understand that entirely, Ethan. Don't worry about that, but yeah, I'm gonna read straight from the Wikipedia article here, going forward. Maladaptive daydreaming, also called excessive daydreaming, is when an individual experiences so much daydreaming that it interferes with daily life. It is a proposed diagnosis of a disordered form of dissociative absorption associated with excessive fantasy that is not recognized by any major medical or psychological criteria. Maladaptive daydreaming can result in distress, can replace human interaction, and may interfere with normal functioning, such as a social life or work. Maladaptive daydreaming is not a widely recognized diagnosis and is not found in any major diagnostic manual of psychiatry or medicine. The term was coined in 2002 by Professor Eli Sommer of University of Haifa. Sommer's definition of the proposed condition is extensive fantasy activity that replaces human interaction and/or interferes with academic, interpersonal, or vocational functioning. There has been limited research outside of Sommer's. Of course, this is what I think Lewis has. I definitely agree with that. I do think that this is what Lewis suffers from and what caused, ultimately his death. And I will say that, obviously, if it wasn't incredibly clear, it was hard to diagnose and actually undiagnosable, to be fair. Like, okay, hang on, I'm gonna read what you said, D. Honestly, my thing is that his therapist knew what was happening and knew it could be dangerous and instead encouraged him to do it. Yeah, I mean, was it right of her to encourage him? No, it was very wrong of her to encourage him to keep going, but I think this is similar to a lot of situations that we especially see. Yeah, I'm not going to entirely fault the therapist because we see this a lot nowadays in a lot of modern mental illnesses where people who are mentally ill will often dissociate into things like literature, roleplay, movies, TV shows. People have all sorts of escapes, so it's hard to pinpoint when it's becoming a danger to, oneself or others. It's hard nowadays. It was probably just as hard when Lewis died in 2010. And not to mention, like I just read in the Wikipedia article, the disorder that I believe he had is pretty much undiagnosable. Like, it is not something you can give a formal diagnosis on. And there's very limited research available about the disorder. So I think the entire problem was just that the therapist had no idea what was wrong with him and didn't know how to treat him. So I kind of can't entirely fault her there. She did what she thought was the best treatment for him, which ultimately ended up killing him. And it was ruled a suicide because they couldn't think of any other explanation for it. At least that's how I see it. So, yeah. I think she listened to her own experience and didn't take his boss's word of him having been a better worker. It would have been easier for her to help. Yeah, I definitely don't think she should have listened to the boss, but I think I can understand where she was coming from. Yeah, she didn't trust her gut. I understand where she was coming from. It's really hard to trust an instinct when everything around you is telling you that you're wrong. Because she was being told, oh, he's doing great. He's doing so much better now that he's just allowed to keep imagining. It's such a good thing. It's so great. And I feel like she knew that it was bad and that it would end badly, but she didn't think to do anything about it until it was too late. You know? At least that's what I think. But yeah, Lewis is a hard one. Lewis is a very, very difficult one. Yeah, by the time anyone else saw the problem with it, she was already told not to think about it. Yeah. And you know what? That's how a lot of the medical diagnosis we get today came to be. Like, depression was widely ignored and dismissed until it was too late, and then people would listen and it would be like, well, why didn't you listen sooner? And it's still a lot like that today. People get shut down before they can be helped. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there was only so much that the therapist could do. Yeah, so I don't entirely blame her. I don't think there's really much blame to be placed on her. I think there's more blame to be placed on the people around her. Same with Lewis, there's no blame to place on him. It's mostly blame to be placed on the people around him who didn't see the signs or who refused to help. Or the people who refused to believe there was something wrong.
On the way back from Lewis's funeral, my mom told me to start packing. She waited until the day before we left to tell Edie.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if she wanted to make it easier or harder. I wish we'd stayed. But I understand why we left. My mom ended up leaving everything behind.
That's a prayer that I'm not gonna read because I ain't no religious motherfucker. Sanjay's old disaster relief vest and his old ID card.
What happened that night had been coming for a long time. Maybe it should have come sooner. But it had to end one way or another. All that's left now is to tell you about that last night.
I like how there's a little bit of everybody in Edith's room. She has the kite from Gus there. She has some of the toys that were in Molly's room. She has, you know, the space and the castles and the bugs and the art and the knights. She has a little something of everybody in her room. And I think it's really special. Like, there's the frog and the deer and the door. There's the whale and, not the whale, the shark and the seal from Molly's. There's all the things from Lewis's visions before he died. His hallucinations, his imagination, whatever you want to call it. There's that jellyfish that was in Molly's room, the Norwegian folktales book that was in Edie's room. Everything in here is linked back to somebody in the house. And I like that.
That whole last day, Edie just watched us pack and didn't say a word. Until supper, when she raised her glass and said,
Fuck.
To
Okay,
our
we're
final
still
night
working.
together, and all our final nights apart.
Grandma, you know what I said about alcohol. Some of your medications are very
Edith,
specific.
I left a present for you in the hallway. Why don't you go open it? The grown-ups have to argue now.
I'm sorry, you're right. We're all leaving tomorrow. Let's just enjoy our last...
I'm not leaving.
Edith, you're excused.
the power had been shut off that morning, but Edie always had plenty of candles. When my mom sealed the library, I don't think she knew about the other entrance. Or that Edie had a key to it.
That thing you're afraid of isn't going to end when you leave the house. Edith has a right to know these stories.
My children are dead because of your stories. I think it's best if Edith and I leave tonight. We'll have the nursing home send a van for you in the morning, okay?
Dear Edith, there's so many stories I wish I could tell you, but there's only time for one. This is about what happened on the night you were born. That night, the tide went way, way out. It was the first and last time I ever saw the old house aground. There'd been an earthquake out in the middle of the ocean. They called it the lowest tide in 1,000 years. God, it smelled awful. You know, I've seen that house every day of my life. But I never thought I'd go back to it. When the fog rolled in, I lost my way. I got turned around. I started seeing things. Things I'd forgotten had ever existed. But when I saw them, they felt like old friends. That night, a lot of things came back to me. Or maybe I came back to them. Things I can't explain, but that I need you to try and...
Edith, what are you doing in here?
It's mine.
Edith!
Mom, you're gonna rip it. Let go. I kicked and screamed, but Mom dragged me to the car. I never saw Great-Grandma Edie again. The next morning, the van came to pick her up, but she was already gone. After that, we moved around a lot. We both tried to make the best of it. A few years went by. My mom didn't like to talk about it. But she started getting sick a lot. The rest happened pretty quickly. She got better for a while, and then she didn't. And then I was alone. The last Finch left alive. Until I found out about you. I'm still not sure what to tell you about all this. If we lived forever, maybe we'd have time to understand things. But as it is, I think the best we can do is try to open our eyes. and appreciate how strange and brief all of this is. This journal was supposed to be for you. But now I hope you'll never see it. I just want to meet you and tell you all these stories myself. But I guess if you're reading this now, things didn't work out that way. This is where your story begins. I'm sorry I won't be there to see it. It's a lot to ask, but I don't want you to be sad that I'm gone. I want you to be amazed that any of us ever had a chance to be here at all. Good luck.
So yeah, that ending, huh? I'm gonna let the credits roll while I talk. So yeah. I think that, like, I definitely think that Edie was mentally unwell. And at the end there, she was definitely just, you know, a dying old woman. But, you know, what do you expect? And Dawn was pretty stubborn until the end, but she had every reason to be. And, yeah, Edith died. I assume giving birth to her son. So, oops. Bye, Edith. And, yeah. Quite a game. There would be music here, but I turned off the music for copyright reasons. So, yeah. That's this game. It's a heavy fucking game. But yeah. Edie died before they could even be, you know. Edie died before she could even be taken away to a retirement home. She, spiteful old lady, was like, no, fuck you. I'm gonna die before you could take me. Yeah. So, what are our final thoughts, everyone? I'm gonna let you give in some final thoughts before I start talking. 'Cause, oh boy. Best part is that what remains of Edith Finch is indeed her son and the story she left for him. Yeah, I do think that's the best part of it overall, is the fact that, like, what remains is literally all that's left of her, is just her story, and yeah, her son. Poor kiddo. I don't think that Edie killed herself, 'cause, I mean, she was like 93. I think it's just that she was old and she refused to die until she had nothing left to hang on to, you know? When Dawn left with Edith, that was, you know, all she had left. I'm sorry, I need to mute. I'm being phone called. sorry it took me a moment. I was getting my dinner and helping bring some stuff in from the car. I'm gonna read back what you guys said, though. Saying her medicine and alcohol don't mix, I think Edie knew what she was doing. Yeah, I have to agree with that one. I think when they say gone, it was literal, like she went out to try and see the old house again and drowned. Yeah, I mean, that could be it too. I mean, it's really open-ended, I think. But, you know, regardless of how you want to take Edie's death, they're all dead in the end, except for Edith's son. So that's, oof. Yeah, so now I can replay a story if I wanted to. But yeah, oh boy. There's everyone. The whole tree. Isn't that fun? So yeah, with that said, that is the rest of the game that I needed to finish. And potentially Milton, yeah. I mean, I don't think... I wouldn't be surprised if so, because I'm yeah, sorry. Drunk old woman who was on meds that left that story for Edith the same night, yeah, sorry. Yeah, maybe. But yeah, no, yeah, Edith's son and potentially Milton, maybe Milton's child, are all that remains of the Finch bloodline. Which I think is interesting. Honestly, I really like this game, because I think a lot of people overlook it because it's like, oh, haha, weird game about death, haha, like, I think it's really impactful, because everybody can relate to it in a different way, like I've said before. There's something in there that everybody is going to relate to in one way or another. And, like, you know, it's a little chaotic. But, yeah, this game is fun. The gameplay is great. The controls are a little bit wonky. The story is a beautiful one. I love the story a lot. And, yeah. But yeah, thank you for joining me for the last bit of what remains of Edith Finch after my Wi-Fi cut off. I hope you enjoyed. If anybody wants to see me play, you know, like, the other game in this series about Milton, let me know, or pay me to buy the game. Give me the money for the game and I'll play it. Thank you very much for watching. I would love feedback in the comments below, because that sounds like it'll be fun. From people who weren't in my chat tonight, by the way. And, yeah. Just thank you. Everybody have an awesome night.